Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wolfe Pit with another episode of What Are We Eating? A couple weeks ago, I tried Kingsford's new baby back pork ribs in a sweet and smoky Kansas City style barbecue sauce. These ribs are just one of many of Kingsford's new line of fully cooked barbecue products. I'm not a big fan of barbecue ribs to begin with, but I thought their barbecue baby back pork ribs were pretty darn good for a fully cooked barbecue product. Especially if you don't like to cook or have the time to make barbecue. They're convenient, they're inexpensive, and they're tasty, especially when you get them on sale for $9.99, which is half the cost of comparable barbecue ribs. I like the Kingsford baby back pork ribs enough that I decided to try more of their products, for you, the people, so you don't have to. They have a pretty darn good looking lineup too. But we all know how some manufacturers catfish us, the consumer, by putting delicious looking pictures of the food on the packages, and then when you sit down to eat them, they look nothing like the picture on the box, and sometimes taste awful. So let's try a few of the Kingsford's new barbecue products and see what they're like. Kingsford has over 90 years of grilling tradition, and the products are made with real ingredients. They're preserving the Kingsford approach, reinventing outdoor cooking, and making barbecue for any occasion. Kingsford barbecue line has 12 products overall, but I only have 8 of them for the video. And if they're any good, I'll try some more. So here's everything I got. I got the Boneless Pork Steak Cuts with Korean style barbecue sauce, which honestly sound amazing. These can be heated in the microwave or the oven, and they look pretty darn good too, don't they? Then I got the seasoned pork carnitas, which are also microwave and oven ready. Here's what they look like when you take them out of the package. Then I got the pork steaks with sweet and smoky Kansas City style barbecue sauce, which come in an oven and grill ready aluminum pan. They also look good. Then we have the pork shoulder with sweet and smoky Kansas City style barbecue sauce, which also come in an oven and grill ready pan. And I know it looks like there's a piece of meat missing, but there's 2 pieces of meat stacked together. And then we have the baby back barbecue pork ribs, which most of you have already seen the video on. And they were pretty darn good. And now for the 3 that I'm actually going to try today. I just had too much to try all at once, so I picked the 3 I thought would be most popular for the upcoming Memorial Day weekend. And speaking of Memorial Day weekend, I heard through the grapevine that there's going to be a coupon in newspapers on May 20th for $1 off each package. And there's also a $1 off coupon that comes with each product. So if these are any good, you can have some decent barbecue and save a couple bucks. Now I know what you're wondering, how much do these cost? The regular price of all the products in aluminum trays is $12.99. But if you can find them on sale, the sales price is $9.99. And the regular price of all the items in the black trays is $7.99. But the sales price is $5.99. The first one I'm trying today is the 26-ounce Boneless Pork Steak Cuts with sweet and smoky Kansas City style barbecue sauce, which are no mess and oven or microwave ready. There's no bones about it. Our Boneless Pork Steak Cuts bring sweetness and smokiness that's hard to find outside of Kansas City. Even better, it's ready in minutes. Just like Kingsford's baby back ribs, there's very few simple ingredients, which is a good thing. There's 3 5-ounce servings per container. Per serving, there's 270 calories, 13 grams of total fat, 4 grams of saturated fat, no trans fat, 65 milligrams of cholesterol, 990 milligrams of sodium, 19 grams of carbohydrates, no fiber, 16 grams of sugars, and 20 grams of protein. These need to be used or frozen by June 8th, 2018. You can heat these up in the microwave or the oven. I'm going to use the oven. All you need to do is remove the plastic vacuum seal and then place in a preheated 400-degree oven for 15 minutes, stirring at the halfway point. Next, I have the 1-pound container of pulled pork with sweet and smoky Kansas City style barbecue sauce. Whether you like your pulled pork in a sandwich or slathered in sauce, we know you like it fast. Grab Kingsford pulled pork, sweet and smoky Kansas City style, to quickly settle your cravings. Again, the ingredients are simple and basic, which I like. Per serving, there's 290 calories, 12 grams of total fat, 4 grams of saturated fat, no trans fat, 65 milligrams of cholesterol, 860 milligrams of sodium, 25 grams of carbohydrates, 1 gram of fiber, 22 grams of sugars, and 21 grams of protein. These need to be used or frozen by July 2nd, 2018. The pulled pork can be heated on the stovetop, oven, or microwave. The pulled pork is going into the oven with the pork steaks for 15 minutes, and I'll stir it at the halfway point. Just by looking at the pulled pork before it's heated, it looks like the meat was cooked by itself, and then the sauce was added on top. Usually store-bought pulled pork is cooked in the sauce and turns the pulled pork into a mushy mess with no texture. So hopefully that's the case, it was cooked by itself and the sauce was added later. But we'll see. Finally, we have the 1.5 pound rack of center-cut pork ribs with Memphis Style Rub. You didn't think we'd forget about Memphis, did you? Enjoy our classic center-cut pork ribs, smoked with inspiration from one of America's best rib cities. Again, there's very few simple ingredients, the way all food should be. Just like the rest of the Kingsford BBQ so far, there's 3 5-ounce servings per container. Per serving, there's 190 calories, 13 grams of total fat, 5 grams of saturated fat, no trans fat, 45 milligrams of cholesterol, 530 milligrams of sodium, 5 grams of carbohydrates, no fiber, 2 grams of sugars, and 13 grams of protein. These need to be used or frozen by May 22nd, 2018. Now these can be heated up in the oven or the grill. But these are also going into the oven with the pulled pork and pork steaks at 400 degrees for 15 minutes. The directions say to baste with sauce, but these are unsauced. So obviously we can skip that part. After 15 minutes in a 400 degree oven, the pork steak cuts, the pulled pork, and the ribs are ready. And I gotta say, my house smelled like a barbecue restaurant. So I plated all the barbecue up to look all fancy onto a barbecue platter, and I've gotta say, it looks pretty darn good. I tried the pulled pork first because pulled pork is one of my favorite barbecues. But unfortunately, I'm not usually a big fan of a lot of barbecue sauce, so we may not be off to a good start. But I must try it, for you, the people, so you don't have to. I've gotta say, it doesn't look bad at all. So into my trap it went. The first thing I noticed was the texture. I expected it to be a mushy mess, like most store-bought overcooked prepared barbecue. But the texture was way better than I expected. It was very tender, but not mushy whatsoever. I was even more concerned about the sauce being overly sweet, but I really thought it had a nice balance of smoky sweet flavor. Even though I'm not a fan of a lot of sauce, it was good enough that I had to sneak in another bite. And the second bite was just as good as the first bite. Next, I tried the pork steak cuts. And as you can see, there's no knife required. They're definitely fork tender. Into my pie hole it went. Once again, the texture was great. Very, very tender, but not falling apart and mushy. The sauce, again, was good without being overly sweet, and it had a nice balance. Just like with the pulled pork, I had to sneak in another bite. The second bite was even better than the first because it had a little bit of fat on it, which, like you've heard me say before, fat equals flavor. I really, really like these steak cuts. Finally, for the center-cut Memphis Dry Rub ribs. But there didn't appear to be a whole lot of rub on these. So I took a bite, and again, the texture of the meat was very good. The meat was a tad on the dry side, but it was still tender with a great bite through, as you can see. It had a little spiciness to it, but was lacking other flavors besides the heat. And the meat, as you can see, came off the bone clean. So here's my overall thoughts on the 3 Kingsford barbecues I tried, from my least favorite to my favorite. The center cut pork ribs with Memphis Style Dry Rub were my least favorite, but that doesn't mean they were bad at all. The texture was great, but they were a little on the dry side, and the flavor wasn't bad, it was just lacking that explosion of flavor when you bite into a rib. They'd still be really good for a quick meal. I think they just need a little bit more rub and some of your favorite barbecue sauce, which is why I'm going to give them a 6 out of 10. And I think that's a pretty good rating coming from someone who doesn't care that much for ribs to begin with. If I really liked ribs, these would have probably gotten an 8 out of 10. The pulled pork was much better than I expected. I thought the texture was great. It was moist and tender, and it wasn't swimming in the sauce, which had a nice balanced flavor. I was really surprised I liked it, since I don't really like a lot of sweet sauce. I ate the pulled pork on its own, and it was very good. Had I put it on a bun by itself, or with some coleslaw, it would have been even better, which is why I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Finally, hands down, my favorite Kingsford BBQ I tried was the Boneless Pork Steak Cuts with sweet and smoky Kansas City style barbecue sauce. These were outstanding. The texture was perfect. They were moist and tender without losing their integrity and falling apart and turning into a mushy mess. They had just the right amount of delicious pork fat, which in my opinion, took them over the top. Again, I really liked these with a nicely balanced sauce, which is why I'm going to give the Boneless Pork Steak Cuts a 9 out of 10. If you'd like to help support the Wolfe Pit, consider being a patron. You can pledge as little as $1 a month, that's only $12 for the whole year. Or you can pledge more, that's up to you. Either way, every little bit's appreciated and helps me produce more high quality videos more often for you, the people. Thank you all very much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.